you talking to this end?
That's an Irish joke, we're not having that. Yeah, I'm going to talk to you about a thing called the Occupied Territories Bill, which is passing through the Dáil at the moment in Ireland. And a lot of people say sometimes, well, why is there such strong support for the Palestinian people in Ireland, which even stretches up, as you'll hear in a second, to government level? And why is it out of step with the rest of Europe? It's a member of the EU. What's going on? Well, of course, there's a history to it. Let's acknowledge, as Jeremy did, it's Remembrance Day today. And my father, I wear a white poppy actually, not a red one, partly in out of respect for my father, was from an Irish family who saw at first hand what happened in the Second World War. He was a merchant seaman, he was on a ship that was torpedoed, 250 people drowned or were burnt alive inside the ship. And it gave him a lifelong hatred for barbarity and savagery, and the kind of thing that we've been witnessing for the last 12 months. And he's gone now, but I'm sure he would have been as angry as we are. He'd have wept with us over what's happened. He said he wouldn't have anything to do with that king and country stuff. Sorry, Vicky. Certainly not the king bit of it, anyway. Just briefly to set up why that bit of history, well, part of that history is Ireland was occupied for hundreds of years. This lady behind us presided over a genocide in the 19th century, during which 2 million people, 1 million people died. The method there was starvation, something the Israelis are very good at. Starvation or ethnic cleansing, emigration. 1 million died, more than 1 million emigrated. And it's one of the reasons why they reckon about 75% of us in this city have Irish heritage. Something we're very proud of. So with that history, is it surprising that in Ireland there is such a big support for Palestine? As you'll hear, it's not everybody, of course. Now, the legislation we're talking about actually was first voted on in 2020 and then was put on the back burner. The legislation, and I quote, would ban and criminalise trade with and economic support for illegal settlements deemed occupied under international law. Yeah. Most notably, Israeli settlements in Israeli-occupied territories. And because it's a law, it hasn't been enacted yet, but because it's a law, of course, it has penalties. Violators would face fines of up to €250,000 or up to 5 years in prison. It was supported when it was first debated in the Dáil by most of the parties. Fianna Fáil, Sinn Féin, the Labour Party, the Green Party, the Social Democrats. And of course it was opposed by Fine Gael, who are the most right-wing party in Ireland. But it was passed in both the upper and lower houses of Parliament, and that was in 2020. So what's happened to it since then? There were efforts to stop it being enacted. It went to the Attorney General in Ireland, who said it couldn't really be passed because his advice was that it was contrary to European Union trade law. But the pressure continued, and when the ruling coalition called for it to be reassessed as a potential action that Ireland could take, they said, but this is in response to the huge loss of life suffered by the Palestinian people. But you know about Israeli settlements in the West Bank and East Jerusalem and the reaches. But it's notable that it's come back again, and the Taoiseach, the leader in Ireland, Simon Harris, the equivalent of the Prime Minister, has asked the Attorney General to re-examine the bill again, following the opinion of the ICJ. The International Court of Justice, and the International Court of Justice has ruled that what's happening amounts to a genocide, or could amount to a genocide. We know it is a genocide. But ATINGAUK put his weight behind it, and the Tunisia, that's the President, Michel Martin, has said in the last few weeks, the ICJ's opinion, and I quote, puts obligations on member states not to do anything that would support the illegal occupation of Palestine. He argued in the bill that this offers a clear way forward for the original bill, which might need to be redrafted and amended somewhat. But that he said every country must use every lever at its disposal to bring about a ceasefire in the Middle East. Division in the European Union over approaches to war are there, but the Tunisia told other leaders at a summit, we in Ireland are not going to wait for everyone in Europe to develop a consensus on this. He went on, if there is more Ireland can do, Ireland will absolutely not be found wanting. Now it has to be acknowledged that the impact economically wouldn't be huge. We're talking about, in terms of monetary terms, about €1 million of trade. But it's a big, big political statement, one which the government of the UK and the most of Europe doesn't seem capable of. As a senator said this week when the bill was being brought back, it was the woman who was the instigator of the bill, Frances Black, it's not going to end the occupation on its own. It's about saying that Ireland will no longer support this horrific injustice. And there was a huge rally in Dublin last month calling for the Occupied Territories Bill to be enacted. Huge, a massive Palestinian flag that was as big as this square. Passing the bill would make Ireland the first EU country to ban trade with illegal Israeli settlements in Palestine.
Yay. Well done.
Contrast with the position of the UK government, which is something like, yes, we're very concerned. Please let them have a bit more food. A bit more food than before you murder them. It's not really fair to not feed the kids before you rip them to pieces.
Yeah.
Don't kill them on an empty stomach.
Shame!
You'd be proud of that, Vicky. So, in ending, let's just acknowledge here, because it's easy to despair, isn't it, for us when in the situation we're in. But so far, Ireland is on the right side of history. And so are we.
Yes!
And so are millions of people across the world.
Yeah.
Despite their governments, despite governments run by some of the most immoral people who have no problem inflicting pain and with no regard or respect for human life. But we are the people, we won't be silent.
Yes!
Stop the bombing, and we demand not just that, but much, much more.
Thanks.